Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Germantown. My name is Shobi Canal. My pronouns are she and her. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation seeking to support one another as we grow our souls and affirm that another world is possible. We celebrate the gift of life each week here at Sunday service, and we are so honored that you have joined us this morning. No matter your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, your class, family structure, employment status, or your health, know that you are welcome here just as you are. As Unitarian Universalists, we are diverse in our spiritual beliefs. Some are atheists, some are agnostics, some believe in God, but all of us put love at the center of our lives. All are invited to join us in that common purpose and for lunch after the service. For our newcomers and visitors, please find your way to the welcome table over here, where a lay leader can help answer questions or set you up with a name tag. Being able to greet one another by name is so vital for building community. If you came with children today, grab a child spiritual development guide from the welcome table. Also, there is a nursery for infants and crawlers at the back of the sanctuary, and just down the hall through this door is the wiggle room for toddlers, staffed and full of toys. Please know that the main way to find out about this community and what we are doing each and every week is to subscribe to our newsletter, The Communicator. Scan the QR code in your order of service to add your name to our distribution list. Read it each week to find out how you can plug in and help out. Our announcements today. After worship today, you can attend UU 101 in the Children's Library, that sunny nook off the assembly room upstairs. If you are relatively new to our community or our faith, we invite you to join in learning a bit more about our history and our theology. Next week is our All Hallows Eve weekend, packed full of activities to help celebrate this spooky season. On Saturday, we'll be hosting an interactive showing of Rocky Horror Picture Show here in the sanctuary. On the 50th anniversary of this cult classic, come dressed in costume and ready to sing along. Sunday, we'll have our all-ages spooktacular in the evening with trunk or treat, pumpkin carving, and a chili cook-off. Those festivities start at 5 p.m. Also note that at the conclusion of this spooktacular, we'll take time to honor those in our memorial garden, lighting candles and acknowledging their presence in our community, closer to us now during this season.
My name is Stearns Matthews. My pronouns are he, him, and I am your director of music ministries. And somehow in that script, we missed the part where don't silence your children, their sounds are welcome here, that whole thing. So please silence your cell phones, but don't silence your children, their sounds are welcome here. I have a call to worship for you today by Pat Uribe Lichty. It's called We Gather. We gather. We bring our sorrows, our disappointments, our failures. We gather for healing, for laughter, and to rejoice. Several rows of people seen mid-torso holding outstretched hands in church. We gather to find new ways of loving, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. We gather, yes, we always gather, for it is in gathering that we find our hope. Welcome.
Our chalice will be lit today by Julie Morrison. Please join me in the unison words printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Durham, and my pronouns are she, her. This morning, we will do the story for all ages a little differently. Kids, you'll stay with your parents for now, and then we will sing you out in a little while. Since this is part of our Diwali celebration, we will do the story of Rama and Sita. So, once upon a time, in a beautiful kingdom of Ayodhya, there was a brave and kind prince named Rama. He and his lovely wife named Sita and a loyal brother named Lakshmana. One day, Rama's father decided to send Rama away to the forest for 14 years to keep a promise he made to one of his wives. Without complaining, Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana left the palace and went to live in the forest. Wasn't that sad that he got sent away? Think that? In the forest, an evil demon king named Ravana heard of Sita's beauty and goodness. He wanted her for his queen. So Ravana came in disguise and kidnapped Sita, taking her to his island kingdom of Lanka. So it seems to just go from bad to worse, doesn't it? Rama was heartbroken. I would be too. But he did not give up. With the help of his brother Lakshmana and an army of monkeys led by their clever king Hanuman, Rama set out to rescue Sita. After a long, fierce battle, Rama defeated Ravana and rescued his beloved Sita. Right? Yay! When their exile was finally over, 14 long years, Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana returned to their kingdom of Ayodhya. The people of Ayodhya were so happy to have their prince back that they all lit rows of oil lamps, and we'll light some lamps today, called diyas, to welcome them home. The whole city glowed with lights, and everyone celebrated with joy, sweets, and fireworks. This is why we celebrate Diwali. And just remember, this is one of the Diwali stories. There are many. The Festival of Lights. It marks the victory of good over evil and light over darkness. One day, on this day, people clean their homes, decorate with diyas and rangoli, as we have over there, wear new clothes, share sweets with family and friends. And so every year, the story of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana reminds us of the importance of being brave, kind, and good to others. Thank you.
And will you join in singing number 413, Go Now in Peace? The lyrics are in your order of service, and we'll sing our kids off to their classes.
My brother, sister, and I exist because of a piece of lost mail. My father, Levine Nanak Kanal, grew up in India in a Hindu family where the men were highly educated going back generations. He and his immediate family lived in a region that would remain part of India when the country was partitioned in 1947. Their home became the destination for many aunties, uncles, and cousins who had to leave their homes and their Muslim friends and neighbors back in the Sindh region, where my father's parents grew up and which would now be a part of the new nation of Pakistan. My father, an excellent math student, applied at age 16 to Banaras Hindu University, hoping to study aeronautical engineering. World War II had just ended, and he had gotten very interested in British and American warplanes. He sent his application by registered, return receipt mail, but received no word on admission. He called the university, a very expensive and difficult phone call in those days, and was told they had no record of his application. He could reapply the following year. My dad, eager and ambitious, did not want to wait, so he decided to apply to colleges in the US. I could say I also owe my existence to my father's father, who was able and willing to support his son's study abroad dreams. My grandfather was a physician who had longed to go to England to study for the qualifying exam for the prestigious fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons, but could not afford to do so. My dad earned his bachelor's and master's of science in engineering at the University of Washington, and after working in Toronto for General Electric, came to Philadelphia to earn his PhD at Penn. In West Philadelphia, he met my mother, Ray Claire Cordes Canal. He was offered a job by General Dynamics, which was willing to sponsor him for a work visa. He faced an obstacle, though. The terms of his student visa required him to leave the US within 3 months of completing his PhD, and his job didn't start that soon. The foreign student advisor at Penn, Dr. E. Digby Baltzell, a name some of you may know because he was an eminent sociologist credited with coining the term WASP for White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Dr. Baltzell had a firm policy that foreign students should go back to their own country after completing their studies. Enter yet another circumstance to which I owe my existence. Dr. Baltzell's secretary was married to one of my dad's friends. After my dad told her he needed an extension of his visa until he started his new job, she said that on her own authority, she could give him the documentation he needed for a 3-month extension, and she did. My dad's migration here was voluntary. He had so many more options and resources than many folks forced to migrate by war or other calamities. In his later years, he began writing a memoir he called Reminiscences of an Accidental American. As an epigraph, he chose this line from one of his favorite novels, A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry. After all, our lives are but a sequence of accidents, a clanking chain of chance events, a string of choices, casual or deliberate, which add up to that one big calamity called life. Thank you. This week, we share our plate with the Germantown Avenue Crisis Ministry, operated out of the First Presbyterian Church of Germantown. GACM is committed to helping our neighbors stay in their homes, navigate public benefits, put food on their table, and feel supported as they face down day-to-day insecurity. Please give generously, as we have found that the more we give away, the more that comes our way. Directions for giving via text can be found in your order of service. Cash and checks can be dropped in the plates as ushers pass by.
Thank you, Thomas. It's beautiful. And for our prayer this morning, we will do the Pavamana mantra from the Upanishads. If you look in your seats, there should be a little slip of paper because this is a participation section of the service. You get to read the English. I was going to ask you to read the Sanskrit, but I'm making it easy on you today. So I'll do the Sanskrit part first, and then when I'm finished, you can do the English part. Works for you? Okay. All right. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Your turn. guys are awesome. That was great. And now we will light our diyas. So set an intention in your heart. Diwali represents light over darkness, good over evil, hope over despair, and knowledge over ignorance. So set a high standard in your heart for something great for yourself, for this country, and for the planet. We can try to form a line.
Please remain seated for hymn number 123 in the hardcover hymnal, Spirit of Life, after which we will share a moment of silence.
Good morning, everyone. So for the piece that I'm going to play, I like to play a raga it's known for its peaceful and serene mood. And I'll explore the notes and possibly get into rhythm, but this is the invitation is just to relax and find your peaceful place and breathe and let the music kind of wash over you. Would everyone like to tone together? Sing the note Om with me? I've heard some beautiful voices, so couldn't resist. If we want to create a continuous sound, then perhaps we have this side of the room start with the sound. The tone is Om, and it's said to be the sound of the beginning of the universe. And it's a great way for all of us to get in tune. Are you up for it? Yeah. Okay, sweet. So when you kind of run out of breath and we'll take over and we'll try to overlap and create a continuous sound. Thank you.
And this morning, we welcome Catherine Miller Wilson from Hyas. And as an immigrant myself, I am looking forward to hear all of the wonderful work that you do for this community. So thank you for coming.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here. I often speak at synagogues and mosques and churches. I have never had the opportunity to speak during a Diwali ceremony, so I feel really honored to be here. So, as Andrea said, my name is Catherine Miller Wilson. I'm the executive director of Hyas, Pennsylvania, not Hyas. They're two different things. And that leads me into our origin story. So, in 1881, in New York City, a group of Jews got together to rescue Jews from terrorist attacks in eastern Russia. A year later, in 1882, a group of Jews got together in Philadelphia to rescue Jews from terrorist attacks in eastern Russia. It was a case of great minds think alike, but the two groups did not know about each other. It was, of course, pre-internet days. Hyas in New York City grew up to be a national and international refugee agency, while at its founding, the term refugee was known as it is today amongst the public. In 1965, that term took on an international legal definition, which this country adopted with the adoption of the Geneva Convention. So, in fact, refugees today are a very narrow part of the immigrant population. They are people that have fled their countries because of persecution based on one of 5 reasons: religion, politics, ethnicity, nationality, or belonging to a special social group. And it's your government that has to have persecuted you for one of those 5 reasons. So why is that important? One of the things that people don't understand is, for example, the plight of Haitians. Haitians, as we all know, are suffering a great deal because of what's going on in their country, between earthquakes and violence. It is really not a place that is safe for anyone. But Haiti, at the moment, has no government. So a Haitian cannot be considered persecuted by their government based on one of those 5 reasons, which means that they are not eligible for refugee status. So that's an important note to keep in mind. Now I'm going to go back to Hyas, Pennsylvania's history. Hyas, Pennsylvania, which at its founding intended to operate much the same way that Hyas in New York City intended to, that is to provide housing, temporary housing, English language services, employment assistance for newly arrived immigrant Jews. The year of our founding, a really critical law passed. The very first immigration, anti-immigrant law in this country passed before that time, and that was the Chinese Exclusion Act. It was a terrible act that barred Chinese immigrants from coming, and it separated Chinese families. But because at our founding, we were concerned with Jews, it didn't really concern the people that we were trying to help. But in 1882, in Congress, the original public charge rule was proposed. That rule said that if you are likely to become a public charge because you have insufficient income and assets, then you are barred from entering the United States. Our founder was a Philadelphia lawyer, not an immigration lawyer, because, as I said, there were really no immigration laws except for the Chinese Exclusion Act at that time. But he was aware of what was happening in Congress. He rallied all of the supporters of the fledgling Highest Pennsylvania, and he said, no mistake, this rule is about keeping Jews out, because in 1882, the poorest of the poor immigrants that were coming to our shores were Jews who were fleeing persecution. So everybody lobbied, and they said, you can't pass this, this is against the Jews, this is terrible, but they lost. That rule still exists today. So from that moment, Highest Pennsylvania suddenly pivoted to meet the needs of their new clients, and they became advocates. The need for fierce advocacy grew and grew and grew as the century turned over and anti-immigrant law after anti-immigrant law passed in Congress in the United States, ultimately resulting in the 1924 National Origins Act. That act slammed the door on all immigrants from Europe. But what was happening in Europe in 1924? The rise of Hitler. So suddenly, we didn't just become fierce advocates, we became immigration lawyers. And we fought as hard as we could to get as many people out as we could. We were successful, thankfully. Many of the people that we were able to get out, their children and grandchildren sat on our board. They've seen me, and they've come up to me with tears in their eyes that I'm here because Highest Pennsylvania was able to advocate for me to enter the port of Philadelphia. But as we know, our efforts didn't work for 6 million Jews who were murdered. The consequences of that door slamming not only resulted in the murder of millions of people, but it also plunged our country into poverty. The economic depression of 1929 was due to many, many factors. One of those factors was our slamming the door to immigrants and what they bring to us. So history repeats. This book, The Truth About Immigration, came out on the 100th anniversary of the 1924 Act. I will pass it around. I highly recommend it. It's a fabulous book written by a Wharton professor. And it contains all kinds of historical data about what immigrants bring and who they are not. So here we are again 100 years later. We had a pandemic, we're slamming the door on immigrants, and we're plunging our country into poverty. So I don't want to bring to this celebration of joy doom and gloom, although it's challenging in these times, right? But I do want to bring us back to the story of this holiday. Truth over lies, victory of knowledge over ignorance. So our charge today, not only on this holiday and every day thereafter, is to bring truth as much as we can, and that's for all of us. We need to tell the real stories about the truth about what immigrants bring. And let me step back a little bit and tell you about immigrants and immigration. We all know that immigration law is incredibly confusing. It was before this moment, and now it's even more chaotic. So what is the true story about the undocumented? Before I answer that question, I want to tell you a story about a conversation I had with my mom about 20 years ago when we were talking about mass incarceration. My mom said, look, if you commit a crime, I believe that you should be held accountable, and that includes punishment. And if it's a particularly egregious, violent crime, maybe you need to be withdrawn from society. But if there are more people in jail than out of jail, then something is wrong with our laws. That is the story behind undocumented immigrants. There's more people that are undocumented than documented. Why? Because there is no pathway. Because that history that I just summarily shared with you is a history of exclusion. Here and here and here, and right up until the present moment where legal pathways that had been established by the prior president have been eliminated by the current president. So what is happening is not a detention of those who flouted our laws. It's a creation of more people who are in the category of flouting our laws because their status was taken away. And it's a failure to acknowledge that a 9-year-old child who crosses 3 borders by himself and when asked why, says, because my grandmother didn't have enough money to feed me and my sister, and I didn't want my sister to die, that child shouldn't be labeled an economic migrant and turned away from our shores. And why should that child not be turned away? There are so many reasons. Because it's immoral for us to not provide shelter when we can. Because we, despite all evidence to the contrary, remain an incredibly wealthy country and can afford to feed people who need feeding. And because history tells us that 9-year-old child is going to grow up and pay taxes, which will support others in need, to get Medicaid, to get food stamps. They're going to create businesses that will employ others and give them jobs. They're going to spend money in American society. They're going to invent things that Americans didn't think about because their perspective is different, because they come from another country and another culture. And the more you mix other countries and cultures, the more inventiveness is born. That's another proof that is provided in the era of the 1924 National Origins Act, the drop in patents between 1924 and 1965 when we reopened our doors slightly. Patent after patent after patent wasn't submitted because we no longer had immigrants, we no longer had innovation, we no longer had different cultural perspectives within our midst. So these are things that we can learn from history. Knowledge over ignorance, that's what today is about. So educate yourselves and educate your neighbors and educate your family members and educate your colleagues and urge them to recognize the truth. Now, I often get asked the question, how can I help? Things are so bad, and they are really bad. We represent several children who got court orders in their favor and were picked up by ICE anyway. And when we told ICE, when we showed them the court order, they said, oh, I know about the court order. Kristi Noem told us to ignore it. The lack of due process is astounding. Our country is a country of laws. And the reason we're a country of laws is to prevent violence, to create a dispute mechanism that we can live with. It is not perfect, it's never been perfect, but it is something that for 249 years has helped us aid in peaceful succession, in peaceful dispute resolution. But this last year That peace is going away. So, what can you do? First, we're here, part of my storytelling is for us to remember. And I'm going to quote a really important quote that transformed me from the lynching memorial in Alabama. For the hanged and beaten, for the shot, drowned, and terrorized, for those abandoned by the rule of law. And there are many in our midst today. We will remember, so don't forget. But we're going to remember with hope, because hopelessness is the enemy of justice. With persistence, because justice is a constant struggle. With faith, because we shall overcome. Another point that this holiday is all about. So what can you do? Educate yourselves, and then speak the truth. Speak the truth in letters to the editor, in letters to your congresspeople, in letters in your newsletters, in your book clubs, with your friends around the dinner table. It's really important that the truth is spoken and is heard. You can also volunteer. You can volunteer with our organization, Highest Pennsylvania, and we will send around a link to our organization. You can also volunteer with one of the many fabulous immigrant-serving organizations in our city and in our region. You're welcome to contact us to get lists of those organizations. We partner with them, and we all have a slightly different piece in the puzzle that is protecting our immigrant neighbors. And of course, you can donate. We always need funds. Highest Pennsylvania this year experienced a fairly dramatic change as the federal government shut down refugee resettlement in this country. It is still shut down, in case you were not aware. And so as a result, we not only laid off our refugee resettlement staff, but we laid off all of our social services division staff because they were all funded by federal dollars. So we are now a small but mighty immigration legal services law firm. We hope that we will get back to providing holistic services, but right now we're really focused on legal services, and we're very dependent on private donations, so that's why I list it as a way to help. But this era has also made us do a lot of thinking about our future and how much we want to be connected to our government even when there is a new government. Because it's made us realize that our values aren't always aligned, and we want to control who we're able to serve and not have that dictated by any government that is in power. The government will always control who is allowed within our borders, and that's not something that we have any power about. But the less funding we receive from the federal government, the more control we have about who we're able to serve within our borders. So those are the things that you could do: educate, write, speak, volunteer, donate. And I hope that that quote, "Don't be hopeless, because that's the enemy of justice," gives you as much inspiration as it does me. Thank you.
Please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, number 23 in your hardcover hymnal, Bring Many Names. And we're going to sing verses 1, 2, and 3. Friends, go forth today carrying the triumph of light over darkness, good over evil, knowledge over ignorance, hope over despair. Carry the light we created together here and illuminate your world with light, peace, hope, faith, inventiveness, all those wonderful words. We're so happy you were here. Happy Diwali.